Okay, it's Friday the 19th of May, and I made one video, and then I've had a chance to go around and spray a lot of the weeds, the unwanted things, and I've been able to pinpoint some issues that we have. Of course, in the other video, which I may not give you, this stretch of grass next to the medical clinic is not cut. And what I'm seeing is that I worked down here a few weeks last year to clear out areas that had saplings and limbs and things growing in them, and created 4 huge piles and cleared these areas out so that they could be cut. And then I sprayed all the other vegetation, so we had like scorched earth out here. Everything was clean, and expecting that this year it could show up down here, and since all the obstructions were gone, everything would be cut and clean and beautiful. But it appears that what happened is that the exact places that were cut before I removed all the obstructions, it's all the same. It's still cutting around the clear areas now. So all that work was for absolutely nothing so far. However, I have identified an issue that's got to be corrected before any of this will work. First of all, there shall be nothing placed next to a tree. We'll have nothing placed next to a tree. No limbs near a tree, no stones, no bricks, concrete. What happens is that area around the tree is neglected by the lawnmower whenever there's something there, and then it just gets bigger and bigger, and vines grow and they eat up the tree. See, that's the vine that I cut down from last year. You see the stuff that's dead that was from last year, but you see the concrete and things around the trees. All this needs to be cleared out. Make the pile right out in the middle so that it can be accessed by a truck, it can be cut around, it can be sprayed around. And limbs. See, when there's a limb on the ground, the lawnmower goes around it. And so when there gets to be a lot of limbs, there's a lot of neglected area. I see limbs on the ground. So some way we have to take care of the limbs on the ground. And again, the limbs need to be put in these 4 piles that I've started last year that are right out in the middle, so you can cut around them, spray around them, and kill snakes around them. And if you want to burn it, you're not going to damage a tree because it's so far from any tree you cannot damage it. So we've got 4 piles for placing the limbs. Most of it I just sprayed around the property, and it's 1,000 times better than last year. But we have a few things that we need to do to make it work. Mainly is stuff around the trees. Do not ever place anything next to a tree. That's very important. You see there's a few sticks, and when there's a stick, the lawnmower goes around it. There's some limbs and some sticks. Now this area was a jungle last year. I spent several days. All of this area was a thicket. It went up to the trees with vines. Spent many days working in this. Now, rather than cut where it used to be a jungle and it was then clear, well, now that clear space that was created is now used to pile limbs. So with the limbs piled there, the lawnmower goes around it. So now all this area is left to grow back, where the only solution for clearing it is grubbing and chopping and clipping by hand. That's a lot of work. You see, all that area was a thicket. Now it's gone, but now we have limbs in here. So what we need to do is get the limbs out and get the limbs put over there on the piles out in the big wide open middle, and cut everything possible with the lawnmower. And even with the piles of limbs, the limbs need to be piled such that you don't have these stragglers sticking out for the lawnmower to go around. Pile them up on there so that you can walk up and touch the pile and you're not 6 feet from the pile with weeds. So I think I've identified that the limbs on the ground are an issue. And see, the pile drift has come out so far on this side. There's not a heavy limb in there, it's just little sticks, but the lawnmower goes around it. And then when it goes around it, there's 5-foot tall weeds growing there. And then we go down the church property line. Hey, it's the same thing. This was cleaned immaculately last year. All of these limbs were removed and put on the pile. But now the limbs have been put on the line, been put under the trees. Never put anything next to a tree. That's very important. And if I forgot to mention an important point, that is, never ever put anything next to a tree. A limb, a concrete block, or a brick, or anything. Don't put anything next to a tree, because that is very, very important for maintaining property. You can't cut next to the tree. It's going to grow up. When it grows up, you get vines, and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. So I think that's going to be our important point. Yeah, that area was several days work getting it cleared out. It's cleared out now, and I just sprayed this vegetation. Some of it will survive, and I'll have to come back and I'll have to chop it again, spray it again. But most of the work has been preserved. But we've got to get those limbs out of there, and we've got to mow it. Mow every inch of it. It's not a tree. And that applies all around out here. I see a brick under a tree. See, when that brick sits there, the lawnmower goes around it, and the vines and weeds survive, and it's just a ever self-propagating thing when there's something under a tree. And by the way, if I didn't mention it, it's very important to never put anything next to a tree. Okay, so somehow or another we've got to do two things. We've got to get the limbs picked up and put in the piles out in the middle, out in the big middle. There's 4 of them that I've made. And then we have to get all the limbs picked up and put on those piles from everywhere on the entire property, and another pile out in the big middle somewhere for everything that doesn't burn, rocks and bricks and concrete, that sort of thing. And another pile, all of it put in one pile, and that way it's in one place where a truck can get to it and haul it away. So we have to deal with this tree that's fallen, but that's another issue. I believe our regular lawn maintenance is going to have to take care of cutting all the grass and take care of picking up all the limbs. And we have a tree, that's a different issue. That's not for regular lawn maintenance, but you can't maintain the yard with limbs and stuff laying all over the place. So anyway, I'm going to turn this thing off and see if I can't do something with that pile that got dumped on us. All right, see you later. Bye.